Stuart Briscoe was a preacher and pastor and writer and helped a lot of Christians over a lot of years of ministry and was super helpful to a lot of people. And he wrote an autobiography called Flowing Streams. And he started off talking about when he was a boy going to church with his parents in North London, in North England, a town called Milham. And it's a town that John Wesley, who founded the Methodist movement here in America, he called it a habitation of thieves and robbers. So it's basically Mos Eisley from Star Wars, I guess. And in his autobiography, he said that going to church was like this. He said, the city of Milham had one ugly landmark, the slag heaps from the ironworks that provided most of the town's jobs. And it had one beautiful landmark, St. George's Anglican Church, which stood on a minor hill in the center of town. It boasted a splendid spire that pointed heavenward and a peal of bells that merrily summoned faithful prayer. And a sweeping driveway led to Milham's Victorian Market Square through the imposing gates. Mature beeches, sycamores, and elms supervised the weekly gathering of people and prevented me from getting a better look at the heavy church doors. Sunday by Sunday, during my intensely impressionable growing up years, I walked past the church gate with my family, looking longingly at the driveway leading to I knew not what. I only knew that we didn't go there. And that alone made it unbearably attractive to my boyish heart. I never went to St. George's because my parents belonged to what everybody in town called the Tin Chapel. It wasn't a proper church because it boasted no spire, sounded no bells, and stood on a small, unkempt piece of ground without benefit of an imposing driveway. The flock who gathered there in the Tin Chapel did not believe in professional ministers or pastors, and so they were led by my father, a grocer by trade. The young Stuart Briscoe is suffering from that oh so familiar feeling of being left out. Outside looking in, stuck going, man, doesn't that look awesome? The grass must be greener on the other side. Oh, if only we had something I could be a part of, and it would be great. Instead, I'm walking past this beautiful historic building on into this small, dumpy tin chapel, where my dad, who packs grocery bags for people, comes and opens his Bible and preaches to people. Now, his son, Pete Briscoe, likened this story, and don't be shocked. It's pretty normal for a pastor's son to become a pastor. It runs in the family like the military and being a teacher. So, I'm not strange, I guess is what I'm saying. He likened it to what the early Jewish Christians must have felt living in Jerusalem as Christians. Where they're meeting in people's houses, and there's almost none of them. And they're sitting in this great world city, is Jerusalem, that is filled with Jewish people. And up on the Temple Mount, there'd be this giant temple that while Christianity started with a bang, right? It was massive. The day of Pentecost came, and the apostles were praying, and the Holy Spirit came into the room, and it shook the foundations of the building, and it cracked the walls of the rooms they were in, and they went outside, and they had these tongues of fire over their head, which should not be confused with the flaming lips, and okay, it's not that popular a band, so only 4 people knew of them, okay. They wrote the song about the girl that fights robots, whatever, okay. So, and they go out and they preach to these people in languages they'd never spoken before, and 3,000 people were added to the church that day, and the church of Jesus Christ was born right there on the preaching of the Apostle Peter, and people were healed by these men, and there was people growing, and every day people would gather in their numbers, and it was an amazing thing. But then, at some point along the way, normal set in. And these Christians were remembering back on those days, but then everyday life kind of sets in, as it does for all of us. And by the time of the book of Hebrews was being written, Christians who had come into the flock had left. And the guy would have to be saying things like, listen, don't give up meeting with each other, as some are in the habit of doing. What's he saying? He's fighting that draw to say, man, this was so much more exciting back then, but it's not there anymore. He's going, it's just kind of normal, everyday life now. And instead of meeting in the temple like they used to do, the church used to meet in the temple and they used to talk, but then they had a pretty ugly divorce when Jerusalem started persecuting the church. And they said, no, you're not part of us anymore. And they weren't part of them anymore. And that was a pretty nasty divorce that they had. And now they're meeting in people's homes, which wasn't bad. It was good. They were devoted to one another. And they learned with one another. And they loved one another. And they listened to the apostles' teachings with one another. But then they can go out and look up at that giant, majestic temple, the fortress that symbolized their former faith. And they go, that used to be ours. And then they would see in the different holidays people from all over the Mediterranean, all over the Roman government coming in, doing pilgrimages to the temple, and people coming in to be a part of what's going on in the city, and they're going, no one is coming from all over the countryside to come see my dumpy little house. And no one is doing pilgrimages into this city to come see my dumpy little faith. And no one is coming all over the place to come see my dumpy little religion. It's that one. That's the big one. And it used to be ours. And they might have been thinking the same thing that young Stuart Briscoe was thinking. All I know is I'm just not part of that. And here's what we have to remember as we go throughout our day-to-day life, and we start looking in the mirror and start going, man, I'm just a dumpy little person with my dumpy little faith and my dumpy little job and my dumpy little family, and everything's stressing me out and everything's going on, and I'm following Jesus so hard, I don't know what's going on. Here's what we have to remember is that Jesus knew these days would come. That Jesus knew. The writers of the Bible knew that it was going to be hard to walk the path sometimes. And that what you needed was not more teaching, but what you needed was encouragement. Did you know that? Did you know that not everything in the Bible is just to say, hey, you're doing something wrong, change it? Sometimes it's there to comfort you. It's there to allow you to take a deep breath in and a giant sigh out. It's there to give you encouragement. And in fact, the whole book of Hebrews, I love that we just sang that song that says, your love is better. That Jesus, the whole point of the book of Hebrews is saying, guys, what are you doing looking at Judaism like you're missing out on something? We have a better temple than their temple. We have a better law than their law. We have a better Moses than their Moses. We have a better high priest than their high priest. And our one sacrifice is better than the thousands of sacrifices that they're going to be doing this year and next year and next year and next year. The whole point of Hebrews is that what we have in Christ is better, whether it looks like it or not. And I think this need for encouragement for the long road is why Jesus gave us the parable we're learning from today. It's very short. It's one of the most famous parables out there, and we're doing this series called Summer Stories, where we're looking at the parables, and we're trying to see the parables were the way that Jesus taught us what the kingdom of heaven was like. And he said, it's kind of like this. And that's not the whole picture, but it's one little image of it. And then it's like this, and it's like this, and it's like this. And then at the end, we might be able to step back and have this broad view of many of the things that the kingdom of heaven encompasses. It won't be everything you need to know, but it'll be a great starting point. And one of the things that Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like is a mustard seed. Matthew 13, verse 31 says this. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man planted in his field. And though it's the smallest of all seeds, when it grows, it's the largest of the garden plants. It becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. Though it starts small, it gets large. Though it's something that a bird would be tempted to eat, it grows to something that a bird would rest in. And what we said when we learn about the parables is we should take note of the interactions. What's the interaction happening? What's touching what, and then what happens, right? That's what. And so last week we talked about the soils, and there was just a seed, and it went to 4 different kinds of soil. Today it's just one soil. It's just soil, but it's a specific kind of seed. It's a mustard seed. And Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. It starts out here. It looks like pepper in your hand if you have a whole bunch of them. That's how small they are. And yet, you plant it in the ground, and it'll grow to 10, 11, 12 feet tall. And it'll cast shade for people who want to sit under it. And it'll be a place where birds can come and perch. And people will be able to build their whole lives under the structure of the kingdom once it's getting up and running. And it's going to be an amazing thing. But Jesus, for whatever reason, was never concerned about starting small. He was never discouraged by that. It's you and me that get discouraged by that. It's you and me that get frustrated that things aren't happening fast enough. It's you and me that look at other things and go, man, everything must be perfect there. And some of you have joined things that look perfect on the outside and got on the inside going, wow, there's a world of problems in here. But Jesus does not struggle with that. And what the early Christians could not have known or did not know, even though they might have, is that temple they were looking up at, going, oh, how majestic that is. What an amazing thing. That just in a couple years would be destroyed, and not a single stone would be standing on the other. And what they did not know is that in just a couple centuries, that the Roman Empire that was the world to them, it was the entire universe as far as they were concerned, that just in a couple centuries later would be dust. Would be an interesting place that we go visit and take pictures of and go, man, wasn't that fascinating that this thing existed once, but it's gone. And the church of Jesus Christ is alive and well. It is existing today, and it is still growing today, and no one can stop it today. It's alive and well. Because Jesus was right when he said the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. But here's the problem. Here's the question I want us to ask. What is it about us that has so much difficulty believing Jesus when he says the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that will start small, but rest assured, it will grow. It will be useful. It will be magnificent. The reason is because we walk by sight. You and I have a tendency to live by our eyes. What we see is all the evidence we need to know. It's what can I see? Now, my brothers and I were talking about this, starting new endeavors and starting new things and adventures and whatever. And everyone loves day one of an adventure, right? Everyone loves day one where you have the idea, you have the vision, you have the plan, you're excited. People are even buying in. You're like, oh, let's go do it. It's going to be great. And then you're like, I don't care that there's nothing out there for me. I have the adventure and it's going to be wonderful. And that's going to be, it's enough to carry me through. And everybody loves the destination. Where you go, I saw this, I planned this, I wanted it to happen, and it happened. But what no one can prepare you for, is what my brother said, is what no one can prepare you for is what it would feel like to be 2 years in. And you're just in the middle of it. And some of the people you thought were going to buy in and work out and these things were going to happen have already kind of walked away, and you're working on new things now, and you're trying to figure new things out, and you're going, okay, well, that didn't play out like I thought it would, and I still have to keep going, and all that sort of just pressure of kind of feeling alone and don't know what's happening next, and you just are feeling the weight of being 2 years in. And you're going, this is hard. And this is what a lot of us do. We get into these new things, or we become Christians, or we get into a new business, or get a new raise, and we go, man, this is great, this is awesome. And then the pressures of that new life come in, and the pressures of that new thing, and the pressures of being a mom, the pressures of being a dad, the pressures of being a boss, the pressures of being an employee, all these things that kind of happen, and you start going, I'm just kind of in the middle of it. And it's just going every single day. And this is our lives. Very little of our lives is the starting point. Very little of our lives are the things where everything just comes to fruition. Most of it is the middle. And I have to tell you something. Jesus knew that. The Bible doesn't say all you have to worry about is the first day and the last day. No, you need to worry about that middle. And the Bible has a lot to say about the middle. And we get stuck. We get stuck going, man, I just don't know how I'm ever going to fix this thing I'm in. And we get stuck, focused in this very moment, this snapshot of our day. This right now, this snapshot becomes the definition of our whole lives. We say, well, whatever this is right here is just going to be what I have to deal with for eternity. We don't believe that pictures are worth 1,000 years. We believe one picture is 1,000 years. That's what we believe. Whatever I'm going through right now will never be different. I'll be stuck in it forever. And Jesus is going, no. That's not how my kingdom works. It starts small, it grows, and you can trust it. It's going to be producing. It's going to be progressing. And if you're a part of it, you can trust that that's happening with you too. And we can't just get stuck going, well, I'll never live that down because this is what I'm going through now. Or I'll never reconcile with my wife. Or my friendship will never be the same again. Or it's all done. No, we can't speak in finalities like that because there's life to live. Things are going somewhere. You can fix the things you're in, and the things you're in the moment right now is not the end of the line. It's just where you are right now. But Jesus is still faithful. He is still moving. He's still progressing. And what's amazing about the kingdom of heaven and where we live today is you listen to that introduction about how the Jewish Christians must have felt, and you think, that's so funny because no one would call Christianity dumpy and little. It's the biggest religion on earth. Over 1 billion people are Christians. It's massive. There are whole institutions that are built in Christianity. There's whole nations that, the idea that it's going to one day sprout, limbs and cast shade for people to rest in and branches for people to build their lives in. It's already happened. We've seen God build the church. We've seen that God can do massive things throughout history. He's already done it. And yet we still kind of feel like, I don't know. Can I trust God? Is it going to happen? What can I trust in this moment? What's going to happen? And we let the moments drive us to distraction. And we look at Jesus and we go, Jesus, I just need you to snap your fingers and fix it. That's all I need. I need you to snap your fingers and fix it. But here's the deal. Jesus is not as insecure as you are. He's not as insecure as I am. When I start going, Jesus, here's the problem, you need to fix it type thing, he always comes and he goes, Garrett, whoa now. I have never worked that way. I have always started small and ended big. I've always taken my time. I've never just worried and gotten hot and bothered because things aren't happening fast enough. That's never how I've worked. If you're going to join in with me, then you'll have to join in with me. You'll have to be part of how I do things. And I'm not just going to sit here and let you rush things ahead. And the reason that we sit there and we go, I can't wait, we have to fix it, is because you're walking by sight. And the Bible says that as Christians, we walk by faith and not by sight. We don't let all the little things that come into our eyesight dictate what's going on. We trust that Jesus is working. We trust that Jesus still has the whole world in his hands. We trust that he still does have plans for his church and his kingdom. We trust that he still does have hope for you and your marriage and your kids and your families and your friendships and your work. We're going to trust that. Tim Keller had an illustration that I use probably once a year because it is super helpful to me personally about what it's like to walk by faith and not by sight. Imagine you are going to your doctor and he finds a lump like right under your arm. And he goes, no big deal. It's not cancer, definitely not cancer. It's just, it could be there your whole life, not even cause a problem. But it could get annoying, maybe get inflamed. So let's just take it out. But it's not a big deal. We want to go to the hospital. We'll just do it right here in the office. Everything's fine. It's not a big thing at all. And you leave and you go, whew, that's great. My doctor knows what he's doing. That's wonderful. You make your appointment, you leave, and you're just whistling, while you drive home. Everything's great. It's not a problem. And then you show up for your appointment. And you come to the room and the light's a little lower down than it was last time. And then there's like this smell of everything's just kind of sterile, and you're like, wait a second. And then you see the knives laid out in perfect line by some masochist, and you kind of go, okay, 1 second here. And you're like, why are there straps on the table? What's happening here? And you start panicking, right? You start going, wait, I'm not as comfortable as I used to be. And the question is, what happened? Did you get new information? No. Did the doctor come in with casts on both hands because he's been punching the brick wall all weekend long? No. Nothing changed except now you can see it. The only thing that's making your faith in your doctor falter is your sight. And you and I walk through our lives, and God's going, I have a plan. I'm working. My kingdom is advancing. Things are going well. I'm going to be victorious in the end. And we're going, but look at everything that's going on. My car's out of gas 3 times a day. What's happening? Right? Like, it's just like everything you're going, and what's happening is you're seeing things in a moment by moment by moment, and it's overpowering what God is trying to tell you. How God's trying to work in your life. And you're walking by sight and not by faith. But Jesus goes, I need you to trust me that I still have the whole world in my hands. I need you to trust me that you will be all right. I need you to trust me that forgiveness is possible. I need you to trust me that your relationship can make it through. I need you to trust me that I still have the whole world in my hands. There was a time Jesus took a nap and he got woken up from a dead sleep to one of his disciples shaking his shoulders, screaming, "Don't you care? Don't you care?" And Jesus wakes up and he sees there's just rain falling all down around him. The storms are going crazy and the waves are crashing. It's amazing. He's wiping the sleep out of his eyes and he's going, "Will you just stop, please?" And all the wind in the storm just disappears. The water goes flat. And he's just sitting there looking at all his disciples. They're all soaking wet and they're just dumbfounded. He's looking at them and he's going, "Where was your faith? What happened?" They were walking by sight. They didn't trust that the guy in the boat with them still had the whole world in his hands. They were walking by sight. Jesus says, the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, and I will not apologize for that. I will not feel embarrassed when people mock at it. I will not sit here and pretend it's something other than it is. It's like a mustard seed. And I don't want you to be discouraged by that either, because it's going to grow. Jesus says that he's going to build his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. I want you to think about that imagery. The church is expanding so rapidly. The church is advancing on death and evil so furiously that it is taking no prisoners. Hell is in full retreat. It is hiding behind fences. It's building up fortifications. It's hiding, hoping to weather the storm. And Jesus says the gates and the fortifications it's putting up will not prevail against it. His church is more powerful than even death. It is more powerful than even hell. Nothing will win against it. But you and I get in the middle of our lives and we go, I don't know if anything can fix this. We're not trusting what Jesus has told us about the power that he's acting out in the world. We're not trusting that he has the whole world in his hands. Now, I was talking to one of my pastor friends about this sermon today, and I was asking about this parable because we're looking at the parables and we ask things like this: what are the interactions that are happening? Because that's what we're going to learn from, right? And I was like, so is there an admonition in this parable? Is there a command that we're supposed to say? Now, because he says this, that's Jesus basically saying, do this. And we both kind of went, I don't think there is. Now, the last week we had the parable of the sowers, and that obviously does have a teaching for us. Soften your heart towards God. Soften your heart towards God. But this week, that sort of isn't there. And we both kind of went, I think he just wanted to encourage people. He wanted to offer encouragement for the long road of following Jesus. That no matter where you find yourself, 2 years out, 10 years out, where you find yourself out in the middle, you can trust that Jesus is leading us to the kingdom. And so I just want to end this service offering encouragement. Because I know there's a lot of pressure being a mom. Kids want a lot of your attention. There's a lot of pressure and frustration being a dad. There's a lot of people in your house not doing what you want them to do, and they don't listen when you talk the first time. Okay, sorry, my bad. My family just spent a week out of town, and every time this happens, which is a new phenomenon for me and my family, because normally we don't go anywhere without each other, but it's a new phenomenon. When they all get back in town, it's like they haven't spoken to each other a word since they've been gone. They're just like, okay, guys, when we all get home, let's all speak at the exact same time so Dad can hear us all. And it's just for a week, just trying to get back to normal. It's all at the exact same time. I'm going, guys, you can't go on trips anymore without me if this is how it's going to be every time you come back. There's a lot. There's pressure. It's going on in your life. I know it's hard to follow Jesus. I know there's temptations crouching at our doors, wanting us, and we have to resist it and all that sort of thing. I know that's there. Megan read a poem to me the other day, and it starts like this. It's called Uphill by Christina Rossetti. It says, does the road wind uphill all the way? Yes, to the very end. Will the day's journey take the whole day long? From morn to night, my friend. And that's life. It's uphill. You got to walk it. You don't get to stop just because you're in the middle somewhere and you're tired. But can I just say something? This is why the book of Hebrews says, don't give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing. Because that's what a weekly worship service is. A time where you can come together with your brothers and sisters in Christ and just find encouragement for the week. Find the grace for the week. To just hear what God has for you. I don't know if you've been listening to the room during our worship services lately, but our church is becoming a worshiping church. You guys sing loudly and wonderfully. And sometimes it's just worthwhile just to sit there and notice that you're surrounded by a group of people, all hoping for the same things you're hoping for, chasing after the same Jesus you're chasing after. And you need it. You need it to be a part of your life. I know for me, if I go to church on vacation because I need the rhythm in my life. I need the thing that says, okay, this is the starting point, Garrett. Okay, I'm back in the house of the Lord. And I'm going to go out and live my life for another week. Because you need encouragement like I do. You need grace like I do. You need the love of Jesus like I do. And when you find yourself walking uphill all the way, sometimes it's nice to hear some encouragement. Sometimes it's nice for people to offer you rest along the way. I want to read you some passages of Scripture to end our time together. Jesus said, I have told you these things so that in me, in Jesus, you might have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Let us not become weary in doing good. Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially those who belong to the family of believers. Let us not grow weary in doing good. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. Let us hold on to the mustard seed that's becoming the kingdom of heaven unswervingly. For he who is promised is faithful. Jesus is faithful. You can trust it. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. And all the more as we see the day approaching. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is an everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow weary or tired, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary. He increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings of eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not grow faint. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. He could snap his fingers. He could change things in a moment. But it must not be the better way. All authority on heaven and earth has been given to me. He could just walk into your life and say, that thing you're doing is done forever. Get it out. But he doesn't do it that way. It must not be the better way. He could walk into your marriage and go, hey, I'm boss here. I'm going to change this forever. You're not talking to each other that way. You're not doing that to each other anymore. I'm just going to take it and change it right now. But that must not be the better way, because all authority on heaven and earth has been given to me, Jesus says. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And listen, friends, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Jesus says his kingdom is like a mustard seed that when you plant it into the dirt, it grows. And it grows, and it grows. And you and I have no idea what part of the growth we're living through. You and I have no idea what God's doing right here, right now. We're doing this thing called the Year of the Invitation, where we're saying what we're focusing on is the invitation. We'll let God do the rest. We're just going to invite people, put their name in a bucket, and let God do the rest, because he's the one that can do anything. He's the one who can do everything. And we just need to trust him for this week. Gather back next week and do it again. Knowing that as the road winds uphill the whole way, God is offering rest along the way. The question is, do we trust him? Do you trust him? Because as we trust Jesus, we will be set free to do his work, to do his ministry, to do what he's created us to do, because we live in trust and understanding that he still has the whole world in his hands. If Jesus says it, we can go to the bank with it.